$896 million. That is how much more money the state put into its bank account than it anticipated it would for the fiscal year that ended June 30th. The surplus is one more piece of information about the state of North Carolina's finances that our next guest, Joe Coletti, is looking at to assess where we are and where we should go when it comes to spending and taxing. Joe, of course, is senior fellow with the John Locke Foundation. He joins us now. Joe, welcome back to the show.
Glad to be here.
Wow. Great news. $896 million we didn't think we were going to have. How'd that happen?
It is nice to be able to talk about positive news, so that's a good thing. And it's largely income taxes that we had the federal tax reforms, and that allowed more money to come into the state. There's a little bit, and the economy did better than expected as well. So there's higher corporate income tax money, higher sales tax money. A portion of that may be due to the Wayfair, the internet sales tax that the Department of Revenue has decided that it can collect.
Because there was more sales tax collected.
There was more on that side. These numbers are about $230 million more than we expected than was expected in May. So $900 million more than originally budgeted, $230 million more just since the May estimate, which was based on April.
Didn't the Cooper administration at one point predict we were going to have a budget shortfall for the fiscal year?
Yeah, they were very concerned in 2017 when the first budget was passed, because we work on a biennium in North Carolina. So the first time that it was passed, Charlie Perouse, the budget director, was writing to everybody and saying that this is going to create a $600 million hole in the budget or after 2 years. So $600 million hole, $900 million surplus in revenue. Yeah, we can do the math.
Just
that's
off
about $1.5 billion difference. But what's that between friends?
So $896 million. That means most likely a lot of different people are going to be saying, my agency or my constituents need that money for fill in the blank. What happens to that money?
Well, the money is currently just available. So
it
rolls over, right? It rolls over because that's from the last fiscal year. It rolls over to what's available this year. It was not in any of the budgets that were proposed originally. So that $250 million is additional money on top of that that would likely then roll over to the following year. We saw this happen in previous years as well, when final collections came in, hundreds of million dollars more than expected in May, and that just built up the stockpile of unreserved cash balances. So that's where this normally goes. Given the circumstances of the budget this year, it's hard to know where that actually ends up.
Now, I know you're a big proponent of building up the rainy day reserve fund, so I suspect if you had your way, you'd take at least a chunk of that and put it away for bad times.
Always the best thing to do, whether it's personal money or state money, is if it's a one-time shock, save it.
So, Joe, it's been fascinating over the past several months as we have witnessed, and you've been writing a lot about at johnlocke.org and carolinajournal.com, the debate over how much money we should spend in our new state budget. Should we or should we not borrow money to build schools? And there's been a real disagreement between legislative leaders and Governor Cooper. Give us a sense over what the two sides have essentially argued is the best course for North Carolina.
Right. So the legislature has gone with the "it's better to save money" approach that we just talked about. That they a couple of years ago created a state capital and infrastructure fund that would pay for capital expenses on an ongoing basis using cash and paying down the debt that North Carolina has already taken out. And Governor Cooper has said that. In his first budget proposal, Charlie Perouse, the budget director who we talked about earlier, said this is a bad idea. The governor's proposal eliminated the SCIF, as it's called, the Capital Infrastructure Fund, and took about $230 million of that and put that down into appropriations on just general operating expenses. In that budget, they then borrowed $288 million. So it's pretty clear, one-to-one, that we want to spend today and borrow money for capital needs, and that's been the the approach that the governor's taken throughout the budget process is
not exactly
spend more money today and borrow to make up for that difference on capital.
That really is in opposition to what we've seen from legislative leaders over the past number of years, where they've taken a much more restrained approach. Spending has grown, but at a very low level.
Yeah, spending from the legislature has grown slower than the governor in every budget that has been proposed from both sides, and with the SCIF there to pay for capital on an ongoing basis, instead of borrowing money, they're paying down debt. And the governor's idea is it's like if you were looking to buy a phone. You could buy the top of the line iPhone for $1,000 and pay that with cash, or you could pay a portion of that in cash and use the rest of it, because the phone's useless without all the subscriptions to Audible and Netflix and everything else. Use some money for that. But then you take on this additional, you have the ongoing cost of your subscription, plus you're paying down the debt for what you borrowed for the phone. That's what the governor is looking to do whereas the legislature is saying, look, we have money, let's pay for the phone and worry about subscriptions separately with the money that we have left over.
In essence, Governor Cooper wants to spend today plus borrow, and of course that means down the road we're going to have to pay back the debt, the interest on that.
Right, and that becomes a real problem, because the first thing in the Constitution that the state is supposed to pay with its money is debt service. So the capital and interest on what has been borrowed in the past is the first thing that we have to do with our money.
There's no way you can not pay that.
That's not right. And everybody is very protective of our AAA bond rating, which is also part of that. And so the first thing, we're going to take care of our debt holders in the future, which means that either the revenue has to grow, the economy has to grow, or you have to have new taxes, or you have to cut spending. And that's what the governor is creating the choices in the future for. And so if the economy does slow down, right, we're going to be back in a really bad position of cutting services, raising taxes, probably doing both. And it's going to look like this is just what we have to do. There's no choice, when really the choice is being made today that affects that future decision.
Joe, you mentioned something really important, and that is if the economy were to slow down. We know the economy is cyclical. It's going to happen at some point. Right. Talk a little bit about why you are such a stickler about this issue of putting money away for savings.
Well, for those of us who have lived in North Carolina for a while, we've been through periods of time when the economy has slowed down and when the governors and the legislature have gone and raised sales taxes by a half penny or a full penny, and meaning $1 billion is what about a penny is worth today. And that is the money that comes from the working people, and it's a tax increase at the worst possible time when we don't have money. Right? We individuals don't have money. The government obviously doesn't have money. And so that's what, so it's cutting services and raising taxes at the worst time, and that's why we need to save money today so that we can smooth that out and the government can provide the services that are needed when the economy slows down, which is when those services are needed, and without raising taxes on the rest of us.
And that's why I know, as I said earlier, you've got your eye on that $896 million. I know it.
I do.
So